So now that I've shown you the ins and outs of how the pen tool works, we're actually going to use it on a photograph. So if I go to File and Open, Chapter 10, Folder 10.1, I have two photos in here and I'm going to use both of them. So I'm going to start down below, click and drag up over both of them, and open them. Okay, this is the background that I want this kid to be standing in front of. Okay, we've got their custom-made Photoshop Rules t-shirt with yours truly printed on the shirt. We've got our Photoshop drill, Nielsen construction, but he's standing in front of my house. Okay, I want him standing in front of a construction site. Now, the way I would cut out this figure is with my pen tool. And the reason for that is when I zoom in, he's got really smooth edges around the arms, smooth edges along the sleeve, smooth edges all the way around. Got a really smooth edge up the back of the neck, all the curves on the helmet, the curves of a cheek, the bumps and curves. Everything is nice, smooth edges. A smooth edge of an elbow. That would be great for the pen tool. Okay, so if you need to see things a little more clearly, especially if you're tracing on a photo, you can go to Photoshop menu, Preferences, Guides, Grid, and Slices. And right down here, you have path options. You can make your path any color you want. I'll make mine green so they're bright. You can also make them a little thicker if you want. I'll make them two just to kind of help you to see things as I draw. And I click OK. So now when I zoom in, notice he is all the way to the bottom edge of the photo. So I'm going to start with my pen tool under the edge of the photo. And basically what you want to do is evaluate what you're going to draw before you draw it. So I notice a little curve that goes to the left and to the right, and then it turns and goes to the left and to the right and to the left. It's kind of this little snaking edge right here. Okay, this is also a short distance. So I'm going to start right underneath, click and drag a short line going up. Every time I let go of the mouse, move up. Click and drag to the right. Let go, move up. Click and drag to the left. Notice how I'm dragging right along the edge of his shirt because it barely bends. So I'm staying close to the edge. I'm dragging at the angle of the curve. If it's a flat curve, it barely has an angle. So I'm going to click and drag at barely an angle. See, again, as I drag up, I'm looking at the curve behind that I'm bending. So every time I let go of the mouse, move up the curve. I'll click and drag up the side of the shirt, move, click and drag up. Now his shirt stops and then it makes a little bounce like a corner. So I'm going to hold Option key for a corner. Now the shirt goes out and to the left or up and to the left. I let go of the mouse and the Option key. Now I come up to the end of the curve where it's going straight up. And I will click and drag straight up to look at the curve below. I got a tiny, tiny little gap here, but that also starts from a corner. So Option and just click and click. Nobody's going to notice a tiny little straight edge, so no big deal. Okay, from here, I'm starting to go around his arm from the edge of that shirt. This is going to be a curve. So the problem is, where do I place my points? How do I know where to draw these points? So here's what I look at always. I'm going to hold Option at the beginning of a curve and come down that edge. Then right down here, I put a point before the turn of his elbow and right after the turn of his elbow. Every time I let go, I move up. Now his arm is going up in this direction. So here's a point right before this turn, right after this turn. Here's a point before this next turn and right after that turn. And I've curved around the elbow. Okay, I can keep holding my space bar to pull more into view. Now his arm comes up and stops, and now his sleeve goes out and to the left. So I'm going to hold Option key for a corner, come out and to the left, come around that turn and go up and to the right, up and to the right, up and to the right, up and to the right. Every curve was going up and to the right. Now his sleeve comes up and hits the back of his hand. It's got to stop. That's a corner. I'll hold Option key for a corner. Now the back of his hand goes up. Now I'll come right around that curve. It goes up to the left. It barely bends, so notice I'm dragging right on the back of his hand. Now right up before the curve of the knuckle, I put a point before a curve, a point up here right after the curve, and a point right there where his finger comes up and stops where it hits the drill bit. Option key for a corner and click. And here I'm just going to do straight click. So click, 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 click. Just keep that part simple. Okay, now the drill bit comes over and stops. So that's going to be yet another corner. Option key, now it goes up the knuckle, come around the turn and put a point right there. Now I come up here before the turn of this knuckle and around the turn of that knuckle. He's got a little lump right here for his thumb. Option key for a corner, I go up, no option key at the end, and I come back down. Option key for a corner, and I go little tiny line to the right and another little tiny line because I got just a little fingertip there. Option key for a corner, I'll go up the shoulder, move, go up the shoulder, move, go up the shoulder, move, and end right there. Option key for a corner, we'll make another little bump right there. Option key for a corner, and we'll make another little bump right there. Option key for a corner, I'll go up the back of his neck, turn, come up and around that turn, up the back of his neck, let go, and move way up here. You can have bigger gaps for smoother curves. So I'll let go here and come way up to his ear, click and drag up and to the left, and I can bend a nice smooth curve up the back side of his neck. Okay, I'll zoom in one more time so you can see that a little better. Now the back of his neck comes up and stops. So option key for a corner, his ear goes out to the left. Then I'll do another little line for a little curve, another little line for a little curve, and another little line for a little curve, and another little line for a little curve. Make a little wavy line up the back side of his ear. Okay, this coming all the way around to here is one long, simple curve. Long, simple curves can be done with only 2 points, beginning and end of the curve. So option key for a corner, I start by going up to the left. Now I let go of the option key, and now I click and drag up to the right. You can see how I'm bending that long green line right around the edge of the helmet right there. Okay, here's another long curve. Goes up, and then ends right there. Okay, then it shoots another little segment. So I'll do 2 points there. Option to start from a corner, I go up, longer line for a longer curve. Then I'll come up to the end, up and to the right, and I'll bend that long curve with just 2 points. This distance is a lot shorter, so I'm going to back up to the last point. Option key, now click and drag a short line for this short distance right there. Here's another curve, goes up, and stops right there. That's a short distance, so I'm going to need short lines. It's also starting from yet another corner. Option to start from a corner and drag up. No option key at the end and drag down. Option for a corner and start. I'll come across and now I'll go up this little hump, come over the hill and come back down this hump, come around this little curved segment and go down the hill and come down the hill to end right there. Again, a few little points to make a wavy line. This point all the way around to here is again one long simple curve. So I'm going to hold Option key, drag a longer line for a longer curve. Then I'll come down at the end. It's coming down and to the right, almost straight down. So I'll press and hold and drag straight down until I've bent that curve right there. Notice how the brim of his hat, or his helmet, it's pretty straight here, and then right about here it turns really rapidly. So I'm going to hold Option for a corner, drag right along the edge of the helmet, short line, because I only have to go this short distance. I put a point right here before the turn and one right after the turn, like that. Let go, move down. One before the next long turn and one at the end of that long turn. Right there. Here's a couple little bumps in his hairline, so it's going to be really small direction lines. Option key for a corner, small line and a small line to finish a curve. Option key for a corner, small line to start, small line to end. Option key for a corner, small line to start, small line to end. Now I hold Option key for a corner, go down the side of his face, let go and move. Come further down the side of his face, let go and move. Further down the side, let go and move. Further down the side of his face. Here's a tiny little bump in his neck, so I'll just hold Option and just click. Then I'll come to this corner and click and drag just to bend one side of the curve like that. Really tiny line for a tiny, tiny bump. Option key for a corner, one line that goes down, no option key at the end. So I get that little curve down the back side of the neck. Here's a couple of little bumps along his shoulder, so I'll hold Option key to start from a corner, no option key to end. Option key to start from a corner, no option key to end. Option key to start from a corner, no option key and drag. Let go, drag up and let go, drag down and let go. There's another corner to start this next segment. So Option key for a corner, it goes out to the right. Now I come halfway down the curve, it comes down to the right. Right before this sharp turn, I put a point here, before a sharp turn and right after a sharp turn. The whole back side of his sleeve is almost a straight line, so you're going to be dragging right along the edge of the brown. Option key for a corner, I'll go down, let go of my mouse, and move. I'll click and drag down, let go, move, down, let go, move. And I'm going to keep making these little meandering lines, down, let go, and move. Right down to there. Option key for a corner. We'll make a little bump for that little bump in his sleeve right there. Option key for a corner. We'll come down this straight edge. Right about here is where the turn occurs. So I'm going to put a point before the turn, right after the turn, and the end of the sleeve. Okay, same thing with his elbow. Option key for a corner. I'll come down the edge of the elbow. Notice I'm not way out here. I'm not cutting into his arm. Right along the edge. Right about here is where it starts to turn. So I'll put a point before the turn of his elbow, right after the turn of his elbow, which also is now the turn of the next curve, right after the turn of that elbow, and to the end of that arm. Okay, I can have gaps because they're simple, smooth curves, bigger gaps. If you're clicking, going click, 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 I wish I could be there at your computer because I would delete your lines. You're going to need gaps between your points. If you don't get it all here in Photoshop, you're definitely going to get it in Illustrator, but you might as well start to understand this process now before we get to Illustrator. So again, option key for a corner. I'll click and drag down, let go and move, down, let go and move, down and let go and move. Make this little wavy line. Now this line comes down and stops. Now it shoots off to the right. So I'll hold option key for a corner. It comes down, let go and move, down, let go, move, down, let go and move, down, let go and move, down. You see a pattern taking place here? Down, let go and move, down, let go and move, down, let go and move, down, and then come all the way across the bottom back to the start. Okay, it's Command 0 to zoom out. I've got a nice solid tracing all the way around this kid. I can see a nice little white silhouette right there, the work path. I can double click on the name, call that kid. And what I'm going to do now is turn this tracing that I made with the pen tool into a perfect selection around the kid. So once I've traced him, I click the pop-up and I say make selection. The kid has a hard edge, so I want the feathering to be 0. It's like cutting him out with a pair of scissors. There we go. I've got a perfect selection based on where I drew with the pen tool. Switch to my move tool, just like I do with every other photo. I can move him out, drag him up, wait a second, and drop him in. I'm going to put him right there at the bottom. He's a little too tall, so I'll hit Command T. Just bring that down a little bit right there, and I'll hit return. And I can put him wherever I want. I can put him off to the side here, or put him over there. It doesn't matter. But I don't want everything to be our focus of attention. He's like 120 feet in front of this building. So he should be the one in focus, not all the detail back here. So to provide a little bit of depth of field, I'm going to go to Window and reopen my Layers panel here. There we go. I'm going to click on the bottom layer. Just move these out of the way so you can see what I'm doing here. And on the bottom layer, I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. I'm just going to crank up the radius to about 8 or 9. Let's go 9. So that kind of puts the background slightly out of focus. He remains his sharp edge, clean foreground element. And I'll click OK. So now we can see he's got these nice, smooth, clean cut edges because I used my pen tool. Hat looks perfect. The shoulder looks good. Everything's coming down. The elbow looks great. That all looks perfect right there. Great. So you're going to save that as construction. Last name, first name, construction. Show me you know how to use that pen tool well so I can have faith that you're going to do well when we cross over into Illustrator later on. If you did it, great job. If you're having a little bit of trouble, no problem. Review the video. no problem. You're going to get it when we get into Illustrator because you're going to have to get it. And I've been teaching the pen tool for 22 years. You are going to get it, okay? Some of you struggle a little more than others. Not a big deal. I don't expect everybody to get it perfectly the first time out. That's why this is mainly for an introduction to the pen tool. So practice. If this was a little shaky, delete the file, do it again, practice again. Or go online, find a picture of a car and trace out a car. And then throw a new city background behind the car like I did here. I threw a construction site behind the kid. Make up your own. Make up your own files to practice with the pen tool. Okay, I don't need this original photo anymore. I can close that. I don't need to save it because I've added him to my construction site. Save it as construction. We'll move on.